Good morning, everyone. Thank you for hopping on and joining us for our coffee hour this morning. We're joined by Donna Goodsell with NRCS, who will be going over the ins and outs of NRCS's Earth Teams volunteer program and how conservation districts can work within that program and work with their local offices to utilize some volunteer power, which is always much needed and always appreciated. If there are any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or raise your hand. Donna said she's happy to kind of answer those as we go. And we'll get to those questions in the chat at the end of the Zoom as well. And so without further ado, I will turn it over to you, Donna.
Thank you. Well, just to introduce myself, I am Donna Goodsell. I am the area coordinator for Area 2, which is Northeast Colorado. And right now I'm also covering Southeast Colorado for Area 3. I've been the volunteer coordinator for about a decade now. I started in 2012. And so I'm like just a few months shy of doing the state leadership for a decade. I've been the area coordinator since 2009. It's really very personal for me because I started at the Yuma County Conservation District as a volunteer when I was still in high school. So I know this works and I know it turns into good jobs, and I'm happy to show you guys. And yes, if you have any questions, always feel free to ask at any time. Going to share. And then please ask Kayla if you need to see anything. It kind of takes over my screen. Does that look good?
Let's see, we're seeing the your presenter view, but I mean, we could see your presentation, but
do you know how to set?
Let's see. Yeah, try that swap presenter view and slideshow. There we go.
There we go. Okay, so this presentation is specifically made for conservation districts. It's one that I have showed at CACD before, but it's been about, I think 4 or 5 or 6 years or more. It has a little bit, if you're brand new to the districts, it gives a little bit of information and about the background of CACD and why it can work with NRCS and why we can work together to utilize volunteers in the same capacity. Volunteering with NRCS started in 1981. It became very official and promoted in 85. So we've been around for a long time. One of the best things about using the volunteers, the Earth Team volunteers, with your districts is that it helps cover some of the liability issues. Because when you sign up as a federal employee, you check your driver's license, you can use the vehicles, you can come in and out of the office, and you can participate as a staff member in the office as well, which is really helpful for districts and stuff. The overall definition of a volunteer is that you have to be 14 years old of age or older. Now, anyone between 14 and 18 do have a place to have their parents sign off, but we can't have any volunteers under the age of 14 that count as a volunteer for Earth Team. They're having an activity, they're doing something in the office or something with the district that a normal NRCS employee would also provide that service for the district, or what they would normally do in the office. It is not an activity that the individual is paid for or elected to do. And the elected to do comes in that role where you have your elected officials, your elected board members, and board supervisors. So it's something that's beyond those duties that they're elected to do. And basically, would the state conservationists approve of them doing this? So there's lots of little things for eligibility, but this is the big things. The big thing is the age. They have to be a US citizen. So we do want people that are eligible to work in the office. The other thing that we have ran into in Colorado a few times is that when you have somebody that comes in to volunteer, they have to understand that we do equal opportunity as a federal agency. We have to, adhere to the EEO principles, but we also have to ensure that our producers have their privacy security. So we have those best practices. Like if they come in and they work on an equip where they happen to hear about who has an equip program or a contract, they're not sharing that at the local coffee shop. That that's considered a privacy thing for our producers. But really, it can be anything. It can be board members, it can be affiliates, it could be family members, spouse, children. We can have hosted volunteers where people need to volunteer somebody somewhere like community service. And so they can come in and they can complete their community service with us. We can utilize student volunteers, anywhere from middle school through college. And then again, just to reiterate, we do have people, we want our volunteers to do and utilize the basic security of the NRCS paperwork and program information. We don't double count CD board meeting hours. So if you have individuals that are required to come to CD board meetings, those meetings aren't counted at hours. But if there's a workshop or something that is not part of that elected duty and they come and they volunteer for that, that counts as hours. So it is not paid or compensated. So, if you're receiving pay or compensation, like time off, if you work on a Saturday, then you get Monday off, then that would not be considered volunteer. And, really, is there any perceived conflict of interest? And I really haven't had any issues with that at all. So pretty much anyone in your things. And it's a lot of times it's the really small actions of lots of people that make a big change. So when you're thinking about the districts and the districts utilizing NRCS volunteers, one of the greatest things to look through is more of a needs assessment. And these are a set of questions that you can ask. Is your district achieving all they would like to achieve on their own? Is there anything that they if they sat down and they brainstormed, what could they really want to do? Or what would be really nice to do that, a part-time district manager or a district manager themselves does not have time to accomplish, but would be really beneficial to put it out there for all the producers, are your cooperators. And that leads us to the needs assessment. And this is good for any application, but this particular discussion is about the volunteers. So what is it that we want? Even if we have this dream list and we don't accomplish everything's on the list, it's really nice to have some ideas on a piece of paper of what we would like to do. Or maybe if we have this big end product that we'd like to have, like say we want to have all these old slides of photographs of different places in our districts. We want to be able to show those in a digital format. That seems like maybe a really big ask because you got to dig them out of the back part of the closet. You got to scan them. You got to digitize them, and then you got to organize them, label them, and then you got to put them together. But if you have that dream, if you have that, oh, that would be so great, Then you can break it down, and then maybe you can find little parts and pieces that volunteers can help you do along the way in order to accomplish that final goal. And so here's an example of a needs assessment. So we have, the basic things of activities that must be accomplished. This is what we absolutely have to do. And then the next column is, what is it that we have to do that we're not getting done? But what could we wish we could do is the third column. So everyone would much rather go, do a demonstration day, a field day, go to workshops, go take photographs all day. But we can't because we have to do, basic stuff in the office like office mailings and, writing checks, getting newsletters done. And so in the last column, you kind of, filter out the things that, what could we, give if we had a free person in the office that's giving us their time? What could they do for us? And it's just a really good way to work through, whether it's here for this task or, if you're thinking about just stuff within the district that you'd like to see completed. But I'm going to go back one slide because I would like to say that this is the perfect time for me to do the coffee hour with the districts, because right now is the perfect planning month. February is actually the perfect planning month because you have about 8 weeks till spring break or spring starts. You got about 10 weeks until National Volunteer Week. You got about, say, 14 weeks until high school kids get out of school and they're looking for summer work and summer work experience. You've got Tree Day coming up. You've got Arbor Day coming up. You got Earth Day coming up. You've got all these wonderful spring activities. And you have February to kind of get some really good ideas together in order to move forward with that. So when you have your needs assessment done, so you've went through this, you kind of lined out things. The next thing is understanding that volunteers are in different types of categories. So basically, it's 3 different categories. You've got the number 1, the non-office work. This is the most used. This is for outreach, delivering trees, field work, and they have a group form. So you just literally, when they come in, they all sign up on one group form. You turn in one form to the RTL. It's very easy. The next group is a smaller group. These people are in the office. They're answering the phone, maybe doing some filing, maybe doing some copying, but they're not on a government computer. And so that's pretty common too. The last one is the one that's the least common. And the reason is because you do have to go through the full background investigation, just like you did when you came on board for a district manager. If you did that part, to be on a government computer, to have access and work with all the files and everything, and to be in the office. So those are the different types. So to take it a little bit further and show you one more thing. So you take your needs assessment and then you break it out on what type of volunteer you need to have. So we need some volunteers for tree delivery. We've got some extra trees. We got an elderly couple just north of town. They're going to have it hard. They wanted to buy trees, but they have a hard time planting them. So we're going to pull in some volunteers to help them plant them. The National Honor Society, the Boy Scouts, FFA, they all have to do a set of community service hours. Might as well use them to put conservation on the ground. So this kind of gives you a little bit of a feel of, how to organize so that we know what we're looking for when we go to interview or to go contact the local high school to see if they have anybody that might be interested. So these two young ladies are in the buyer's office. They came in for actually quite a while. The one at the desk, she came in on a regular basis. I think it was 1 or 2 days a week. Most of the work that she did was to help get newsletters out for the district, help make copies for the district, answer phones. So the district manager wasn't doing that. So it was a big boon for the office to have her come in. So with this note, you're going to see later this year, probably within the next month or two, we're going to be promoting what they call the Colorado Apprenticeship Program. Well, it does work with the volunteer program, and we're going to try to recruit local high school students that can come do an apprenticeship with NRCS in the service center. What's really nice about tapping into these young kids that are looking as what they're going might do for a job or a career or what they might go into for school, it has great benefits because this gives us an in for the hiring pools for later on. And it gives them really good work experience. It gives them a really good chance to do some resume building and all the volunteer the work they do for us. It's really nice when you give them a letter says that we really appreciate you working for us and volunteering for the district, because that really helps them on college and scholarship applications as well. So it really benefits all the way around, really helping the kids out as well as getting our information into the schools. Some of the other groups that would fit into this besides just FFA is the environmental science students, the FCLA students, the FBLA students, as well as, a lot of the schools now have what they call the Green Club, which is the environmental sciences club, and kids that are interested in doing environmental science coming out of college. So then, so they can be in the office or we can get them out in the field. We have districts that hire summer help in order to do things like surveying, checking CRP fields. They can go out, they can monitor weeds. They can go out and treat weed areas. They can just go out and take pictures. They can help go take pictures of subdivisions so that, for those of you that are really in that heavy subdivision review section, they're really good at, then you can have photos and stuff that are going in it. Check for wildlife. The volunteer that is in here was a high school volunteer out of Julesburg, and she ended up having a career with NRCS in Nebraska. So Colorado Earth Team. So we have goals. I make goals every year because it's easier if you have a goal, because then you know what you're going to work towards. One of the best goals I think there is the CDs used to use an annual work plan. So if you use it, if you can come up with an annual event that's super fun, that's going to happen every year within the community, then the first year is going to be the most work. The second year, you're going to repeat it and you're going to add to it. Once you get past that third year, everybody expects it to happen. All your volunteers expect that they're going to come back and volunteer again. And it really kind of gets the ball running. And so the planning, I'm not going to say it takes less and less, but it becomes more of a rhythm than something where it takes a lot of brainstorming and upfront work to come up with it. So that's what I think would be great, is if each, for your district, if you could come up with annual events that kind of, everybody's kind of expecting them every time you do it. So now we're into the good part. Do we have any questions before I start showing lots of really fun pictures and everything?
We don't
Let's
have
get,
any questions in the chat, so you're good. Yeah, go ahead, Donna.
okay, thanks. So let's talk about good stuff. So first you have your tree delivery day. Your tree delivery day is always a big day. There is no reason why any district manager should feel like they need to unload the truck and sort trees all by themselves. So we really need people to come in and stop in for the day, and it works really good when you can have that. So here's two photos of volunteers doing exactly that for a tree day. We have Envirothon and Camp Rocky. These are two events that are led by the conservation districts. The NRCS can help out, and NRCS staff cannot be volunteers because they're paid and they're compensated by the government. But we can help you round up volunteers, we can help you put it on, we can take time out of our job, and we can pull in extra volunteers to help with it. So great examples of using volunteers with the districts. We have water festivals. Water festivals really have tapered off probably in the last 5 years. COVID did not help with that. But it'd be a great time to revitalize this tradition. There's lots of little experiments and stuff and hands-on learning. Kids love getting hands-on learning and seeing demonstrations. A few years ago, the crew up in Julesburg came up with what they call a soil fest. So instead of a water fest, the focus was soil. Here is an example agenda of that. It was put on by NRCS staff, but the district helped pull everybody in, helped, it was a district activity as well as an NRCS activity. It was really good to see demonstrations about soils and soil health. A long time running one is out of Longmont, Colorado. It's called Our Lands to Your Hands. The focus of this is so that school kids in an urban setting can come in and they can actually see what their food comes from. So it was really nice. You got to see like a sugar beet right next to a bag of sugar. So it was very visual, very hands-on. It was a great way to get in touch to a lot of kids. And as you can see in the upper left-hand corner, they really pulled in a lot of FFA kids and a lot of volunteers in order to help make it happen. And it's been a great event. So another example is a kids camp. So whether it's a one-day camp, a couple-hour camp, a week-long camp, that's really up to what works for you and your districts, what age group is up to your districts. And these guys tied in with culture resources and stuff. I thought that was a great way to tie in and pull in some of the different topics. So there's also backyard conservation camps, recycled bird feeders, composting bins, looking at soils through microscopes, understanding the texturing, understanding that there's, urban ag is the big thing that NRCS is promoting right now. So it's a great way to show kids they can grow their own stuff in their own backyard. And so those are some of the ideas. Here are even more of the ideas. And these ideas are in a Word document that Kayla will send out to you. And then from this, you can kind of introduce it to your district board and people around. And they're like, oh my God, look at all these ideas. What could we possibly do? And I would say the best place to start is who do you know you have presenters. So the first time out, utilize what you know you have. So utilize the presenters that you know you have available. You can always expand, but make it easy for the first time out, because there's lots of stuff to figure out the first time out. Narrow down your list, come up with an agenda. I've put a sample agenda in here, and hopefully that helps you out and everything. And then determine how much extra help you need. Are you going to need somebody to help them get off the bus? Are you going to need somebody help with lunches? How are you going to do that? And then when you have it kind of think you got it all together, go ahead and invite the kids and see how many kids you can come in and get to see it. So is there any questions on that? We've had some down in Brighton that focus on butterflies and bees. They had the local beekeepers come in and show the difference between planting pollinators and all the different kinds of pollinators, not just bees, but they did have the somebody with local beehives come in and show the kids what an actual beehive looks like. So that was an idea. We've done things with water conservation beyond, the water festival, but actually water conservation and how to do soil testing and why that makes a difference when you're growing your crops. How to do water conservation, put out water for birds. So another thing that volunteers can help you a lot with is your workshops and your meetings. So we have usually a part-time district manager or one full-time district manager. That's a lot of work if that's the only person that's going to set up the table, set up the screens, set up the chairs, take registrations, answer questions. So get volunteers to come. If you have 5 extra producers that are going to sign up, tell them the first 5 people that sign up, if you're willing to come help set up chairs and come a little bit earlier, we're not going to charge you registration. And that's a nice way to handle that. Give them an extra tree. If you have a tree workshop, save an extra tree for your 5 volunteers that come in and help set up everything. Make sure you tell them thank you. Thank you is usually what all people want to hear. They just want to hear thanks for doing a good job. So here's some more projects that have been done over the years. We did do a volunteer, I think it was out in Holyoke. They did a really nice, with Cindy Einspire, they did a nice youth hunt. Got volunteers in to come in with that. One of the volunteers was a gun club, so the gun club kept all the liability and everything on that. It was really fun for the kids. Did some transfers of some turkeys, of course, the water festival. But sometimes the volunteer can be something as simple as the volunteer comes, and if a conservation district owns the building, the volunteer is the one that comes and weeds around the building or helps keep the area clean for the week or for the summer. So another really great idea is to have community gardens. They equate to urban ag. So you're going to hear this year, you're going to constantly hear NRCS has money for urban ag. It was one of the things that came with the additional IRA money. And we do a USDA food drive that we've done forever associated with the People's Garden. And so here's 3 examples of, local. They put up a local community garden, and then the high school kids or the high school FFA kids, a 4-H group, or just a sign-up group comes in and maintains it over the summer. And so I believe these are from Lamar, and off the top of my head, I can't remember where the other one's from. But community gardens are a great way to have, and then you have a really nice place for people to come have the meeting as well, because then they get to see the community garden, urban ag. So, I'm going to take one little breath here just to make sure we don't have any questions. So there are other types of group volunteers. And so sometimes going to these groups to get volunteers makes it a lot easier in order to get some then. Use the example is that when I was looking for volunteer help for the High Park fire, I just happened to tap into my son's friends when they were over for their garage band. And those kids stopped practicing and they spent probably 4 hours helping me put together pamphlets for the High Park fire so that they could, because they were having a big community meeting on what to do, where to get resources. And those kids did a great job putting together all these pamphlets so that when it came time for Fort Collins to hand them out, the pamphlets were all ready to go. So, the kind of that prep work before a meeting. There's church youth, there's honor societies, 4-H groups, FFA, FBLA, and more. A lot of these groups have to do community service. Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts both have community service as requirements for them. They have to do it. So we might as well tap in. There's the Lions Club, the Vets Club, the Rotary Club, the Shriners, Young Farmers, New Farmers. A great example of a tour that you might be able to do for your conservation district is if you have a lot of new farmers or young farmers, you could do a tour of some of your cooperators or board members that have been long-term in the area, have a lot of good conservation practices, and then you just make a tour of those specific places. And you've really helped your local community to see different conservation in their community. And again, it can all be helped with all that workload can be helped with volunteers. So definitely putting in a plug for FFA. I will probably always put in a plug for them. It's just a great organization, and we have a lot of good kids out there, and they are a lot of times the future of agriculture. So I've gave lots of ideas, how to get them, what we're going to do. So the next step is, how do you go about getting them to come on board? So there are a couple forms to sign. I will get those to you since you have to turn them into your resource team lead or your NRCS person. I would have you go ahead and get those forms from that person. That way, when you fill them out, you turn them back in. They know that they need to get them scanned and sent to me. When they come in, introduce them to everybody. Make them feel welcome and at home. They are there because they want to do something. They want to be helpful. They want to do something to, save their world, save their planet, help their local community. And below is just a snapshot, a little bit of verbiage. You can give them on a welcoming card when they come into the office. For paperwork, the paperwork is kept by NRCS. There is either an individual form or a group form, and an Excel spreadsheet that you turn hours in on. You keep that we base it on the fiscal year. So you would keep hours from October until August. In mid-August, then the RTL turns all those hours into me. I enter those hours into a national database that is a record, and we have to keep that record. So it also gives, weight to anyone that does volunteer, because it does count. They can count that on a resume. We've had people call and check, and they've received promotions and stuff based on their volunteer hours before they got the permanent job. This is just kind of a list of what you would keep. So similar to a personnel file that you might have on a employee, but this is what we keep and how we would put it together for a volunteer. And then you want to just sit down with them and say, privacy basics, Freedom of Information Act. So yes, public has a right to information, but we keep producers' information private under the Privacy Act. And why we have that little bit of a privacy for our producers. Schedule, field office hours, when are they coming, when are they going? What is it that they want to do? They're here to volunteer, and we have some ideas of what we want, but also what do they want to do? Because we might be able to really help them gain what they want to do. And if they're doing what they want to do, they're going to be more willing to do what we would like them to do as well. And I have some fact sheets on orientation, all that kind of stuff. Whatever you need for additional assistance, I have stuff, I got piles of stuff available. So the hours just get counted, turned into the resource team lead. And we keep those for 3 years. So we keep a record for 3 years, hard copy, that database that we keep. There's some of the voluntary records I have that go back past 1997 that is kept on volunteers. So we're looking at over 30 years of, that we can go back and track people's hours that they've donated to the federal government and to local conservation. The biggest part of anything is to always say thank you. It is really important to say thank you. They're there because they want to be there. They come in and they help us do stuff that we couldn't do on our own. So it's really important to say thank you. We have a National Volunteer Week every week in April. This year it is April 17th or 16th through the 22nd, and Earth Day is this 22nd. And that week is a great week to have something going on in the office, to send out some thank you cards. I can get small goodies to hats that say you're an Earth Team volunteer. We really want to recognize volunteers. I think it's a big part of my job to always make sure that I nominate and give plaques and certificates to different districts. It's important to me to always show up at CADCD, always say thank you to the districts, not just the winner, but to all of you, because you all take great care of us at NRCS by allowing us to be and work with your local cooperators. And then my final slide, this is my final one. It was just some verbiage, and I like to include it because sometimes it just helps to have everything written out for you so that you can just like copy and paste or retype when you're putting announcements in your district newsletters or social media. So that's what I have. So
Excellent. Thank you, Donna. That was a lot of good information. And does anyone have any questions for Donna right off the bat? I really like the examples of potential places of where to go for volunteers. And I mean, you have different opportunities for retired folks, but also elementary and high school learners. And so those were helpful starting points of where to kind of go for recruiting the types of volunteers, depending on the projects you have. Um, I did have one that kind of came to mind. If you could kind of expand on this or shed a little light, Donna, for people, and I'm thinking more like high school or even college age students participating in the Earth Teams volunteer program, is there an opportunity to earn for students to work with their college or school to earn credit, like academic credit for their volunteer hours? And I know that's kind of getting more into like a internship position, but is there any kind of guidelines on NRCS's side that kind of speak towards volunteers earning academic credit for their work?
Absolutely. So that's what a big thing of the part of the apprenticeship program, and like what we have a lot of our high school students come in. And I'll go back to FFA, because when you're in your junior and senior level of FFA, a lot of it is work experience, or FBLA. They actually go out and they work in the community, but some of them only have a couple hours at a time. So they're able to actually come into our office for a couple hours, and then we sign an agreement with the school, and then the school actually gives them credit for doing that. And that would be in high school students. And for college level, I mean, everybody would prefer a paid internship. We're not kidding. We'd much rather pay you. We'd much rather get paid. But the truth is some of the community colleges and the little community locations in your local towns, they are community college. So if kids want to do work study, or if they're applying for financial aid and they have work study, there's not a cafeteria or a dormitory for them to work in to earn that work study. We can be a hosted volunteer. So, like with Morgan Community College, NJC, I think we also did it even with the college that's down in Lamar. We were able to do a hosted volunteer. So they were able to come work for us, and then they were receive their federal aid through their work study payment. But they had to have a place to work, and the college themselves didn't have a place for them to work. So it worked out really great for the students. So we do offer, NRCS does offer a paid internship, and that would be the pathways. It would give us, a pool to pull from for a paid internship. But there's a lot of times college students can come and they can put in a set of hours, like under an independent study. I actually did that in college. I worked for Mike Peterson, and I did a lot of EM38 surveys in order to pull the site, how much salt was in the soil around the Gilcrest farms in order to map that. And I received, I think, 4 college credits, and it ended up being about 180 hours worth of internship, essentially. And so it was nice because I got to have the college credits, finish that. And yeah, so we can do hosted that way.
That's
It's a
great.
really great way to do that.
Well, and it's always kind of important to think of the motives of why people volunteer and incentives that you can offer um, in lieu of payment. And so academic credit, hands-on experience in the field that way is really important, especially for um, youth volunteers. And so that's good to know that that's an option to go that route. Um, Other questions?
We've
Oh, go ahead, Donna.
I was also going to say, we have a situation in Colorado and across the nation where we have more kids in urban settings than we do have in rural settings. And so, with urban ag coming up, and with small people wanting to get back to nature, have their own chickens instead of buying eggs, isn't that on everybody's mind right now? It's a little, what did I say? I said I heard that term farmette the other day. Instead of a ranchette, we have a farmette. We have a small hobby farm. And a lot of times you have these kids growing up in an urban classroom and they don't have the first clue how to get started. So they could come volunteer for the district to really get an idea of what is part of farming. Then, if they are inspired, it would really help them as new farmers or ranchers understand, a lot of the stuff that goes into it where they may not be raised around agriculture and not have that experience coming in. So I think it's a great a great resource for that. Um, some of the best projects I've seen for a couple of journalism students was they needed a topic to work on. So they were able to come in, pull old slides, scan them, organize them, put together some really great slideshows. And it was really great for the district because we were able to pull some of those really old photographs so they can show how the district has changed from, from the 30s and 40s and 50s to where it is now in the change of the land use. So a lot of times if you can find out what they're looking for, what they're, that you can really find a project that works really well for them.
That's a good point. And other questions for Donna? I have one more if I can. Um, are there ways for, so you had mentioned that NRCS or the districts keep records for 3 years. Um, for volunteers, is there a way for districts to reach out to their local NRCS field office or their RTLs to have a running list of past volunteers that they could reach out to and be like, hey, we've got a project coming up. We're looking for volunteers. Do you have someone that you've used in the past that we could reach out to and see if they'd be interested? Is that a resource that district managers or conservation districts can use? Or is that kind of a
No,
not
that's
accessible?
absolutely. Oh no, that would be great. That would be great. And with staff changes, sometimes you have a new district manager come in. They're not really sure who to contact. Usually, even if the RTL's new, there's been a couple staff there for a couple years. They know who to reach out. Um, Even if everyone else in the office is new, usually your board members know who's going to volunteer throughout the community. Um, so we definitely have lists per each RTL. A lot of times the records go past 3 years. That's just the minimum that we have to keep them. So a lot of
Got it.
times the RTL has ability to go back and look at records for 5 to 10 years and have they know who's going to come in and volunteer and they know who's going to come help out. But yeah, that's a great way to look it up.
Good. And so, yeah, I think that may be, that's good to know that that could be a starting point for kind of crowdsourcing reliable volunteers. So good to know that that's a good starting point.
Yes. And I wanted to include some of the JPEGs that I shared for social media outlets for the districts and stuff. I do have occurred to me while I was presenting, I also have some little verbiages and I will pop those into a Word document and send them to you too. So they're just a little paragraph that you can put in district newsletters, put on social media, however you put on your webpage, however you advertise best to
Mm.
say, hey, come in, we're looking for volunteers for the summer.
Nice. But that will be, any of those are great resources too. No need to reinvent the wheel if those exist out there. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And Donna did share all of the presentation and some of those conservation activities that you could do with kiddos. She shared that list with me. And so once we're done with this coffee hour, I will be sure to follow up with that so you all have access to those materials as well. And we are getting kind of close to the end of our time today. And so I will put it out there for any last minute questions for Donna. Um, and if not, feel free to, is it okay if I share your email to Donna so that they could reach
Oh,
out to you?
absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yes. Yes.
I'll share Donna's email and always feel free to reach out to me. I always have a soft spot for volunteers and kind of fostering the environments that folks are willing to give and ideas for them to kind of be involved. And so if I can be of help kind of brainstorming any of those conversations, let me know. Um, it was this was great, Donna. So thank you. I so appreciate it. And so if there aren't any more questions or final comments, we will go ahead and wrap up a little early today. All right. Thanks, everyone.